everyone, Andrew here from the We Did It blog. We're here with Ernest Barbaric. He is a digital marketing strategist out of Canada.
That is correct. We had a chance to actually converse with one of the other folks at We Did It. This was, I think, last year when I was writing an article about crowdfunding, which is how I found out about your company. So I'm glad we had a chance to connect.
Yeah, well, we've been, I've got to talk to Ernest a little bit, and one of the things that we get to hear a lot from our clients is they struggle with driving traffic to their nonprofit web pages and donation pages. And that's kind of one of Ernest's specialties, is distributing and getting messages heard. So I want to talk to him a little bit today about driving traffic to donation pages. So I've got a few questions for you, Ernest. I just want to dive in and ask you.
Sure.
So I'll start with this. What kind of challenges do you feel nonprofits face in trying to drive traffic to their donation pages?
Well, I think, you know, it's this nonprofits face the same kind of things as for-profits businesses, and that generally boils down to overcoming apathy. So in terms of seeing something and I could do nothing, I could, you know, eat an ice cream, or I could click on this link and actually spend some time there, right? So it's like, so that's one big hurdle to overcome now. Mm-hmm. The second thing that we're seeing right now is there's a lot of content overload. So if you have, just to give you an example, like for example, if you're following more than, you know, 300, maybe 400 people on Twitter or on any social platform, there's so much stuff coming in that it's impossible to see everything. So that's the first aspect of it. And the second aspect of it is that as people see content as valuable, as brands see content as valuable, that means that they're producing more of it. So there's this larger volume of content. So it's getting really hard to stand out. Those would be the major things. And one other thing that I found with nonprofits specifically is that, at least the ones that I've had a chance to work with here, so I'm in Calgary, Canada, is that they tend to be sort of light-handed in the sense of, you know, it's like, we're just a nonprofit. We can't compete with the, you know, big for-profit companies, and we're just here to help people and that kind of stuff, right? Versus, you know, kind of switching things around, really getting into, not necessarily getting into people's faces, but being more engaging. I think it's like, it seems very passive, I guess. And so I think those are the three biggest hurdles. And then once you have some thinking and some strategy to get around those, then traffic generation comes sort of as second nature to that.
It's a really good point. You know, in addition to like the information overload, I think a lot of nonprofits struggle with just diminishing returns on their social media, whether it's because of the overload or because of, you know, platforms like Facebook kind of starting to slim down the reach of free pages. And so I hear from a lot of people who are getting really frustrated with that, because they used to just get this, you know, huge reach and big distribution for free, and that's really starting to become more and more difficult. Do you have any ideas for kind of how to overcome that?
Well, I think it's interesting, you know, because Facebook is not in the game to help you or to help small businesses. Facebook is in the game to make money for shareholders. And so what I've noticed is I do work with a lot of small businesses as well, and like a variety of different companies. And so what I've noticed is that Facebook has made changes to their algorithm in order to force small business users and nonprofits to pay for boosted posts and advertising. And so your reach has sort of diminished substantially due to their changes and them trying to, you know, generate revenue for their shareholders. And so one of the things that I often make a distinction of when I work with clients and when I teach, so I teach a lot of different courses. One of the things that I make a distinction of is between owned assets and borrowed assets. So for example, your website, your blog, and your newsletter are three things that you own and you control. So you can always download your email list. You can always have control over your own content on your blog. If the host that you're using decides to shut down, you have a copy of your blog that you can move somewhere else. So you own it. Versus borrowed assets, which are liabilities. So for example, using platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, anything that's on a third-party platform is a borrowed asset. So with understanding that, you want to use it for a specific purpose and be ready for a time when it no longer serves a purpose. And so you want to be mindful of focusing on building your own audience and your own assets, and then using whatever is necessary and then switching things out as time goes along. You know, a lot of businesses have invested heavily into building a big, you know, fan page back when there were fan pages, right? And so now those audiences are receiving between 2 to 8% of they're actually reaching 2 to 8% of their audience, which is minuscule. after putting all of that work into building it. So I mean, those are some big changes. So I would say, like, invest into building your own assets that are going to grow in value over time. Every single new email address that you get in your email list is an increase in value of the list.
Yeah, that's a great point, and something that data from our donation pages backs up too, in that the referral sources are overwhelmingly point to email as the strongest driver of traffic and donations. So like on our pages, like 56% of crowdfunding campaign traffic comes from email. So it's a really, really good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, I was going to mention one more thing. Like, when it comes to crowdfunding, I think there's a common misconception in the sense, especially with nonprofits, thinking that we're going to put this project up and this is going to replace our fundraising. And that's not how it works. You're using crowdfunding for a particular time-limited project. And on top of that, because there's so many different crowdfunding platforms now, and there's so much competition on each one of those, they're basically acting like a PayPal. They give you a platform to put up a project, and then you have to bring your own audience there. And then most of the time, that's a largely the portion of the people that are going to fund your project. So it's like you have to build your own audience, and you have to understand a crowdfunding platform for what it is. It's a platform you can use temporary for one project, and then you move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's a great point. So what kind of online metrics should nonprofits be tracking to measure their success?
Well, it's kind of a tough question to ask, because I don't know what the objectives are. But I'll tell you some of the main things that I would look at, just to get a health of a digital marketing presence. So one of the first things that I'll look at is the raw audience size, and that's usually illustrated by unique visitors on Google Analytics or on Clicky. So speaking of which, actually, like, if you use Google Analytics, I found it super clunky. I find it impossible to find things the way that I like to find them. So I've been using this service called Clicky, and it's ridiculously more intuitive. Most of the students that I have going through my classes, I tell them about it, and they use it for big organizations. They've flipped to it because it's so much easier and more intuitive. I can track specifically where somebody came from and follow one person along through my website, rather than on Google. You kind of trying to cobble together where people went, what they did, and that kind of stuff. So it's really great. The second thing I would look for is number of subscribers. That will give me an indication of how many people have given you permission to contact them, which then indicates how many people you have direct access to. So if Facebook or Twitter were to shut down today, you have direct access to these people, and I think that's pretty important. Otherwise, I would also look at top content, so top content pieces, specifically focusing on the blog, because that would give me an indication of what kind of content works for our audience and what kind of titles and structure of blog posts. And then I would iterate on the best ones and sort of not do as many of the ones that aren't that great. And the other couple of things, inbound links would be very important on your analytics software to find out where exactly you're getting referrals from. Just so you can understand if somebody's linked to your article, if somebody is linked to some of your things, so you can actually start engaging in them in a conversation. Maybe there could be an opportunity for a partnership. I don't know. I look through my analytics on every few days, and what I've started noticing is that some of my articles are being used in universities and classes pretty much all over the world, which was really weird. Like, I had people coming from New Zealand from university. They're referencing specific social media goal setting articles and that kind of stuff. So that's really good to know. And one last thing is, so Google has made a change in the way that they show you their search queries. So you can no longer get in Google Analytics specifically what people entered into their Google search bar when they come to your website, which is funny because Google provides that in their Google Analytics, and now it just says not provided. So if you're seeing like 99% of your search traffic is not provided, there is a way around that to get some of that back for now. And the way to get that back is using Google Webmaster Tools. And Google Webmaster Tools allows you to see something called search queries. They're currently replacing with something called search analytics, which is like not even like, I don't know what worse than bad is. It's horrible. Like, it's not really useful at all. But you still have access to search queries, and there you can see like what keywords people entered, where you rank for those keywords, how many click-throughs you get for those keywords. So that's really good intelligence to get.
Awesome. That's great to know. And I love that data-driven approach of kind of looking at what's working and doing more of that and acting really quickly on that. That's great. So you said you work with some small businesses and for-profit businesses. Is there anything you see them doing as far as digital marketing that you would like to see more nonprofits adopt?
One of the big things that I'm seeing that there is a not even a trend, but this is a really smart thing to do, is around content. So one of the things that I don't see a lot of nonprofits do is really focus in on their content. One of the companies that does an amazing job is Charity Water.
Yes.
They do an amazing job with content and the way they lay their websites out and how they activate their audiences and how they empower people to do their own fundraising. So, excuse me. So one of the things that I think that I would like to see more in the nonprofit world is that storytelling and is that content building. I gave a talk two days ago at a business event here in Calgary, and one of the concepts that I told them about that I think is really important now is this idea of stackable content. And so this is something I haven't seen a lot of people talk about. So I'm going to trademark it right here, basically. And what stackable content is basically almost like building a trail of breadcrumbs of pieces of content that takes a visitor down to an endpoint or a call to action. So for example, it might mean something like you post an Instagram photo of, I don't know, a basket that somebody wove in Africa. I don't know. And then you can say underneath that, it says like, to find out more about who wove this basket, click here. Now that would take you to, for example, a longer video where you can say, this is so-and-so, this is part of a social enterprise. We're trying to get these people to build baskets in Africa and then import them here. And then we sell them and then we send all the money back to help their community. And if you find out more about the whole process, click here. And that takes you to an article, which is then longer, takes you through the whole process. And at the end of the article, you can then choose to donate. So that's 4 to 5 steps of ever increasing length of content and ever increasing value with every interaction that I think is a really smart and interesting thing. And other than that, video I think seems to be a really good opportunity, and not necessarily on YouTube so much, but on Instagram and Snapchat. So one of the things that I've been really trying to get somebody to do, and I haven't been able to convince anybody to invest time into this, is because Instagram allows you to have 15-second video. Why not create a 15-second show that you produce once a week?
That'd be really cool.
That would be awesome. Can you imagine? Like it could be a series on, cooking or whatever. Meet the CEO or ask our CEO a question. They'll answer in 15 seconds. Like any of those kind of things. But to have that sort of consistent show, it would be awesome. But I haven't seen anybody do that.
Man, I might have to steal that idea. That's really good. That's fun.
I think it's great. I just wish somebody would take the initiative and just do an awesome job with it.
That'd be great. We just did a Twitter chat on, I do a weekly Twitter chat called Fun Chat, and this week's was on using Meerkat or Periscope for nonprofits and what kind of benefits they might see out of that. Just on the topic of video and how important that is. And I've always imagined it'd be really cool for maybe an organization like a Habitat for Humanity, where they could kind of live stream handing off of keys to a new homeowner, and people could just kind of witness that as it happens. It'd be really cool.
And I mean, even if you take that piece of content and then convert that into like a really short, cut it into a 15-second video, that's a show.
Oh yeah.
So you can really kind of like piggyback content creation on top of each other that way. And you can actually work in reverse, right? So it could be like, here's the person that we're trying to help. Here's the house being almost half built. You can read the article about the house and tune in at this time to watch the keys being. So that's that stackable content idea.
Yeah.
So you can flip it in reverse as well.
That'd be excellent, really cool. So that kind of brings us to my last question for you. So say you had a nonprofit or you were working with a nonprofit and you had 6 months and $6,000 to spend for online marketing for a mid-sized nonprofit, we'll say. How are you going to spend that time and money?
So I would be very aware of the first 2 things. So every time I do strategy building, it comes down to the 2 main things. First of all, who is the audience? And what we do is we go through a profiling process. So it's not demographics, but it's rather the behaviors and motivations of a person, and that's what I build a profile on. So that's the first step. The second step is for what purpose? Are we trying to raise funds? Are we trying to get donors? Are we trying to get volunteers? And then figure out the channel that are going to match the audience and the objective. So those would be the first 2 things. Now, if I only had $6,000 to spend, how about having $60,000 to spend? Google Grants allows nonprofits to have up to $10,000 a month for free. So basically, you would go to Google Grants. You can apply for their process, and you can get $10,000 a month worth of Google Ads for your organization. So first of all, I would fill that out in the first, I don't know, hour or so, and I would get another $60,000 off that budget. But in terms of like speaking, so let's assume that this is a company that has 6 months of runway left, and so organization. So I would look for, is there any way to overhaul my website so it's actually interesting to look at? Ideally, I would want it to be visually appealing to my audience with a clear call to action. So simplify as much as possible, one call to action, and make it visually appealing. And ideally, the visuals that you use should reflect the target audience who you're trying to talk to, whether that's donors, whether that's partners, whether that's funders, or whoever it is that you're trying to attract should be reflected in your visuals. I would look at creating a few really great pieces of content, so maybe even some graphics or videos, and I would do this with the intent of getting these to be shared. Now, I would try to get these shared by reaching out to media and influencers in the area. So when we say influencers, that doesn't necessarily mean that these are the people that are going to spread our message with our particular target market. So, for example, if we're trying to get male volunteers, I recently I did a nonprofit workshop for social media strategy with there's an organization in Alberta called Alberta Mentoring Partnership, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to match out, for example, youth that are in care and youth that are at risk with mentors, and what they're missing is male mentors. They don't have enough of them. So what I would look at is the male mentor type of a personality is going to be looking at this type of a person to get their information from. And that's the type of a person that would like to get involved as an influencer. So all of the stuff that I've mentioned so far is pretty much free. Just going to take some time in terms of like reaching out to those kind of people and also reaching out to media outlets. So the other thing that I would look at is maybe even doing a small crowdfunding for one small project. And the crowdfunding project wouldn't necessarily be to raise a whole bunch of funds, but it would be so that I have something to talk about to the media.
Okay.
Right. And so, if, for example, if you are one of these mentoring projects, it would be something like, help us, Alberta Mentoring Association. What we're going to do is we are going to raise funds in order to put, this 3 kids through college, let's say. And so it's a confined project, it's confined space, confined scope, confined timeline, and then you would use that in order to get media attention. Once you got media attention, your website would be ready, and in order to start building things that way. So those are some of the ways that I would use that time. And then at the end of the day, if you had some money to spend, if you had some money left to spend, Facebook ads and Twitter ads are actually really, really good. I've been experimenting with both, and I'm finding I'm liking Twitter ads better. One of the things that you can do is you can actually target the followers of a particular person. So even if you can't get that influencer to vouch for you, you can still target all of the people that follow him or her.
Excellent.
Through Twitter. So that's one way. And the other thing that I think is awesome right now, so late last year, Facebook and Twitter rolled out custom and tailor audiences, which allows you to upload your email list, and then you would build ads specifically for the email list. So that's option number 1. So if you have a CRM or anything like that, you would basically upload it into your Facebook custom audiences, and then all of the ads that you create are shown just to them. And option number 2 would be to install, it's just basically a single pixel that you would put on your website that tracks everybody that comes to your website and then goes to Facebook. And so it's basically like super cheap way to do retargeting. And that has been shown to increase conversion rates substantially.
Awesome. That's great advice.
Yeah.
That's about all we have time for today. I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I think everyone watching just got a lot of good insight out of it. Where can people learn more about you and your work?
The easiest way to find me is at ernestbarbaric.com. So ERNESTBARBARIC.com. You can find me on Twitter at eBarbaric. And I also have a podcast about the art of meaningful work, where I've had a chance to talk with some really great thought leaders like CC Chapman, Todd Henry, Pam Slim, and that's at 26k.ca.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Tune in for the next one, everybody.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.